Negative K, nothing further, just K-Cammy in the corner. That's a direct order. Do it now.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, April the 9th, 2026. We are Roll Call, Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. I'm here with a few of my friends. I got D. Schoon, I got Mark, I got Ty, I got Will, I got Rich, Derek, Jim, Kyle, Melba, and Cheech. Welcome, Kyle. Welcome, Cheech. Welcome, Jim. All right. We want to start off with our moment of silence, right? I'm trying to get myself together. D, intro moment of silence.
I got it. That's the silent part. Yeah, you muted there, Don.
See? Thank you,
Saying
D.
nothing, talking loud.
Yeah. We're gonna have our disclaimer read by Derek and our statement of purpose by Rich.
All right, good afternoon, people. We are Roll Call, Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. The comments and expressed concerns made by members of Roll Call, Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations here in Roll Call, made by our panel, are the opinions of the individual and not meant to offend or intended to be legal advice, recommendations, or suggestions for listeners and or observers. The panel may display graphic videos or photographs that are an integral to spark discussion. These videos or photographs are not intended to offend any viewer or listener. A panel member will give notice to the audience as to its nature prior to displaying any graphic or sensitive video or photograph. Any graphic content displayed during the panel discussion has been obtained and shared from public social media platforms and is not the property of Roll Call. The language used by members of Roll Call and its guests is spontaneous, it's uncensored, and not intended to offend the audience.
Hey, Rich?
Okay, thank you, Derek. Once again, we're Roll Call Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. We're a pro law enforcement group. We're for policing. We're against racism, and Black and Brown lives matter. We come to you each week in an attempt to bridge the gap between law enforcement and your community. Thank you for being here with us.
All right, thank you so much to both Derek and Rich, and to D. Listen, before we get started, I want to make sure we keep in prayer Derek and Deirdre. And I know some, healing is taking place and people are being healed, but if it's on my heart, I'm gonna mention it. So just bear with me on that. If it's on my heart, I'm just gonna mention it. Cheech and Anna, we're gonna continue to pray for. JT in Orlando, Isabel Jordan, we're gonna continue to pray for. Monique, Mark's sister-in-law, we're praying for her. My brother Tim Butler, and a good friend of mine, Derek knows him very well, as also Linwood Boyd. We're praying for him. He had a stroke the night before last, so we're praying for him and a speedy recovery. I always say this, that I don't want to be made better. I want to be made whole. Some people want to feel better. You could be better and still sick. I don't want to be just made better. I want to be made whole. So that's usually the statement I always use, but I want to just say that this afternoon. Let me just say, before we get started, I want to say welcome to Richard Bowden. Says howdy. AC, who's doing papa duties. That's what he said to us. He's doing papa duties. Go ahead and do your papa duties, man. Donald Coleman. Good afternoon. My wife is with us. Sylvia Butler. Eric Jones, the Hempstead Tiger. Good afternoon, everyone. Beverly Harrison Wells. Good afternoon. Hope all are well. Valerie Burris Marsh. Renee Henderson. Good afternoon. Melissa Sutherland Moss. Melba Blocker. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Melba. All right. Okay. And as a complete recovery. Yeah, the AC complete. No, being made whole. All right. So listen, that's where we are. Listen, Will deserted us last week. He said he don't care nothing about us, so he came back today. We decided we're gonna put him right to work. So go ahead, Will. You got the show today.
Before we forget, I do recall I did tap in and type in a message and a comment. Come on now, give me a little bit of love.
just a little bit.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna do my best. I got a finger up, Rich. Please help me out. Come on, Rich.
I just had a thought I wanted to pass on. Dee did a great job of, the moment of silence, and then we see the police, sheriff deputies, the military people that have lost their lives. Today kind of really touched me that I wore both those uniforms, the military and the police uniform, and I just feel blessed to be here. You know what I mean?
It's amazing. It's amazing you said that, because when I was looking at the video and the photos, in my mind, I'm saying that person was alive, is not alive now. So I feel you, Rich, and I've only worn one of the uniforms, but I definitely feel you for those who ever served, veterans, police, law enforcement. Every week that gets to me. So
yeah, it's real touching. The military part, there was times when I didn't know if I would make it back or not. Being on foreign soil, so there was a concern with not coming back home, and that's a different feeling than working as a police officer in your city. But still, you look at those pictures and you see the ages, and you realize you're blessed to be here right now. That we're able to be here and fellowship and we're alive, and we could have been that person in the picture. So kind of hit me a little harder today, just watching that. I just wanted to say that. Thanks.
And listen, and you guys, we're going on 6 years coming this June. 6 years. I can't believe that we've been hanging out together for 6 years. 6 years we're coming together in June. And no one planned it to be this long. No, we didn't know how long it was going to be, or even we even could talk about something that long. But every week we always get something new, and so Will's going to take us to some new discussions this week too.
I'm gonna say real quick, Rich, I really appreciate you saying what you said. And to that point, we're in a time where we got a whole lot of people that don't value life until it comes across for them. And that empathy component really needs to be something that we've got to work on across the board. Donald Coleman posted, he says, my heart is broken today. My childhood friend for over 80 years. I'm reading this correctly. He said 80 years passed away Tuesday morning. And my other friend passed away this morning. Now we know 80 years is 80, right? Right, Don?
Yes, it is.
80 years is 80. So, you know, that's a full life in terms of years, but that doesn't lessen the loss when they're no longer with you anymore. I learned a long time ago, it's not that you are preparing yourself for someone to transition. It's how complicated it is to prepare yourself for them to not be here anymore. And there's a difference. So that being said, before we go down this rabbit hole and we got tears going down everybody's face, D, you gonna cue up the very first video for us? I understand we got a real example of somebody that maybe should have hung up the duty belt a little while ago.
All right, let me start out by saying, when I was working, as some of you were working, somebody said you were gonna know when it was time, and I always took the Muhammad Ali story. I didn't want to go out on the bottom. I wanted to go out being able to do the job, and somewhere in my brain, I still think I could do it today. I don't know. That's the way I live. Like I can do it today. So, but there are some people that you got to know when it's time to go. You know, what is that saying? You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to run away and know when to run. So,
when to run.
This video we have is a gentleman, an officer. Now I know in some of you southern states, just let me set it up a little bit. I know there's no retirement. The retirement is regular retirement. Just you have to get to a certain age to retire. Here in New York, we have 20-year retirements. For a while, it was 22, and then went to 25. That was the state police. And I know some people are similar. I know some of the southern states, there are no retirement age. So people have to stay on as long as they stay on. Let's take a look at this this gentleman that found himself in an arrest situation, and then we're going to talk about it.
This is diabolical. I got a real question, like, what age do you think police should retire? He look old and slow. He's struggling for real. Yo. And at this moment right here, you should have just gave up. You ain't catching him. Look how slow you're moving. They really might have to sit you down after this video. Yeah, this is your retirement packet right here. You might well just go ahead and give it up, throw it out, brother. It's over. I wouldn't even be trying at this point. Just give up, bro. He out of there. Look at him.
At the gate, we have one of our elder statesmen with his hand up. Although I think Jim could probably go back and do the job right now. But what are your thoughts today, Jim?
I certainly can do better than him. Definitely do better than him. All I have to say is watching this, thank God he didn't shoot that guy. That's all I really have to say, because that wouldn't have surprised me to see him take out his gun and shoot this kid. So it had a happy ending. That's all I have.
You got an excellent point, and I'm thankful as well. I mean, the resistance that the kid was doing was what we would call active resistance, not assaultive. He was just trying to get away. And the level of force that you get to utilize based upon that resistance will vary. Melba, what are your thoughts?
You're muted.
I'm trying not to mute myself. I was thinking about that. So I work at a preschool currently, and they have what they call a community day. And so they invite in local law enforcement and firemen and hospital workers and all this, and they do a little parade with the kids, and the kids really get a kick out of it. So I was speaking to one of the officers there who looked to be thereabouts my age, maybe a little older.
What's that?
What?
I was wondering who's gonna do that.
I ain't scared. I turned double nickels this year. Ain't nothing wrong with me. It's all given. So, but and I was talking to him about that. And so, you know, those that were able in New York to bounce from agency to agency and carry over that time is a blessing, because he was one that went to a couple of agencies because this one, you know, whatever they were offering at the time was a little bit more money, but his time did not carry. So he is, you know, in his 50s, still looking to do another 10, 12 years because his time didn't carry. And that's why you will see in these agencies like patrol officers that are older doing that work against the community, which may be significantly younger when they're still in the mood to do whatever they're doing. And so that's why you see that.
You got an excellent point. For me, I couldn't tell readily that he was advanced in age. The way he moved, I can understand why we would default to that. But I'm gonna tell y'all, I've seen some officers that would move just the same, or maybe not even as good, and be much younger than you would anticipate. So it would be interesting to know exactly what that officer's age was. Derek, you're up.
Yeah, the person that was narrating the video was asking, at what age is it time to retire? It looks like this guy retired in the middle of that chase. I mean, and to what Melba was saying, some of these guys need to rethink their moves as far as jumping from one department to another, because of the fact that you'll have to stay past a certain age. If the officer that Melba knows is in his mid-50s and he's looking to do another 10 years, we're looking at 65 years old. And I'm going to tell you something. I mean, muscles don't respond. You don't think as quickly. You don't move as quickly. Patrol in particular, policing in general, but patrol in particular is a younger man's job or a younger woman's job. And your body at 60 is not responding the way it would have at 30. And it's really dangerous for the officer and the community to be out past a certain age, or to be out past a certain level of fitness for those that are young and aren't fit. It's dangerous.
And can I just interject and say, at this age, I don't want to do that.
No.
I don't want to.
And again, all of those are excellent points. Now, say for instance, here in the South, because I retired from an agency here in the South, I could have gone back into law enforcement. At the time I retired, I was 53, I believe. I could have gone back into law enforcement through a different retirement system, say with hospital police or a university campus police, and stayed 5 years and drawn an additional retirement. So that's why some people do it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to chasing money and you're not honest about what your abilities are, and like you all said, patrol is a young person's game. You might be getting yourself into more than biting off more than you can chew, and you're putting other folks at risk. Dee, what are your thoughts on the matter?
This furthers our discussion on just taking a job and not being able to do the job. I mean, this is, you have to know yourself, you have to know the abilities of yourself, and you have to train in a way that while during training you can much figure out, and all of us know it when it's like, it's getting to be a bit much. And muscles, you said it right, Derek, the muscles don't twitch like they used to, cramp up where they shouldn't, and things happen. So you have to know when to say, hey, look, I gotta stop this, because most of us understand it's 95% boredom, they said, policing, 5% pure hell. That 5%, boy, That gets you in a minute. That 5% it gets you in a minute. So I think it's a bigger conversation to everybody listening, and not just law enforcement. Be able to do the job you're doing. Will, you said it right. Everybody trying to collect a check. I got to get to my retirement. Those are the conversations we have, and nobody's considering if you can do the job. I'm gonna have the big conversation. Shut up. I'm gonna have to. Sorry about that. I'm gonna have the big conversation about not doing your job, and look at the position this country's in right now. This is typical. People not qualified to do the job. You can have your affiliations, but at the end of the day, it's on television right now. You ain't qualified, partner. You are not qualified, and it's embarrassing. And we have to be able to take stock in ourselves if we're going to be anything, for us to say, I can't do that job. That's not for me. Let somebody else do it. Let somebody else, even if I don't like them and I don't think they can do it, give them a shot, because I know I can't do it. So I think we got to have those specific conversations with ourselves.
Absolutely right. Renee Henderson says, as you age, old injuries come back to haunt you. She ain't never lied. AC, yes, D, some officers are better off the streets towards the end of their careers. And a lot of us know the presumption is if you progress through your career and have longevity with an agency, there's a better chance than not that you will move up to where everyday life on patrol is not where you live. But with the movement that's taking place and all of the different dynamics, officers chasing the bag for another agency or whatever, you lose out on a lot of seniority that'll get you to that next level and leave that other game for some younger folks. Rich, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm gonna come at this from a different angle. I think on a department, you form friendships and there's a camaraderie. And if you have a good locker room, everybody pulls each other's coattail to a certain extent. So the person that you're working with doesn't become a liability. And like in my department, I was always involved in, captain of the softball team for our department. And I was on football. We had full contact football. We traveled around the country. We would go to the Coast Guard station, play basketball. So
I got him.
Like I was saying, we were engaged in a lot of activities off the job where everybody could see what your capabilities were or whether you're losing a step, because we played ball and we did other activities, and we had a good locker room. We could pull each other's coattail and say, hey, maybe it might be time for you to maybe get one of the desk jobs or a special assignment, because physically we don't think you're up to it, for the patrol, and also we had a firefighting aspect too. So you have to be in a certain amount of shape, to get on that gear and the whole nine. Well, just to button that up, I'm just saying, if you have a good locker room, you can keep guys on the right track where they won't be a liability out in the field. So I'm coming from a different perspective there, but I think that's important. And pulling each other's coattail, it really goes for everything, not just the physical. It's how you conducting yourself out, interacting with the public. When you start seeing certain things of your coworkers, that thin blue line, sometimes it's really thin, so you got to check on each other. So that's the perspective I'm coming from on that.
A really interesting point that you make, Rich. I understand that most of you all work for larger departments. The largest department that I ever worked for had maybe 100 officers. And the camaraderie, interestingly enough, you would think a smaller environment would have better camaraderie, but it actually was even more cliquish maybe than some larger departments. So Rich, those transparency and honesty and brotherhood one with another, I wish it was an environment that I could say I saw a lot in my career. Unfortunately, I didn't. If you were a part of the clique, then all well and good. If you weren't, then not. Ty.
I'm going to say that's a very, very, very rare locker room. that is able to do that. Far be it from me to tell another man what he's supposed to, not supposed to be doing, even if it does include him having to save my life one day. I mean, that's a hard conversation. I don't care how close you are. I mean, I would do it for Mark and maybe Don and Dirk, but if in an open locker room with many guys, you got to deal with a lot of egos and a lot of other problems. And even though you could be right and correct in your assessment and have only but the purest of good hearts and intentions, that can cause a disruption in that locker room or cause a culture shift because of somebody, let's say, well, he think he's better than everybody else or whatever. So that's a very, very rare locker room. That's a great place to be, Rich. That's a really,
it was
nice place to be, bro.
Mm-hmm. It was good.
It's funny you make that point. You think about it in this context. When you start talking to people every day, there are several topics that are always going to be difficult, no matter what your level of experience and awareness. You try to talk to somebody about their finances, a lot of times they don't want to hear it. You try to talk to somebody about their kids, a lot of times they don't want to hear it. You try to talk to somebody about their spirituality, a lot of times they don't want to hear it. So I'm with Ty on that, Rich. The fact that you had a locker room where you all had that type of family environment and it wasn't just a cliquish environment, bro, I have to tip my hat to you on that.
Hey, Will, you forgot politics.
Yeah, that too. Absolutely. Mark, what's on your mind?
Yeah, you brought up good afternoon, everybody. You brought up clicks, and like when we did 8-hour tours, we were pretty tight in the department. When we went to the longer hours, I think the officers worked 10 hours. It was great for the guys as far as working less days, more hours in a day, but it created such a gap with officers that we lost that closeness that we used to have in the locker room. So, you know, a department will change things sometimes to appease the officers because they think that's what they want. But there's always consequences to any move you make in the department. So that was just kind of like the dark side of making that move. And then the supervisors worked 12 hours. We were pretty much still tight, but we saw such a gap with the officers on patrol, and guys would just come, do their job, go home, and no communication, no real caring, and the clicks got really bad. So I just wanted to share that. But you were right about clicks.
Appreciate it. Let's give a love to a couple of our members that have come on, and we're not even going to say better late than never. It's always better to have them. Mr. Camp, Miss Jackson, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
And Cheech, bring it. Saying nothing, talking loud.
Come on, Mr. Holt.
No, I just wanted to add real quick that it's not just in law enforcement. Fire department is the same way. There were guys there that I was like, I hope I don't go down because this person is not carrying me out. You knew it, you know? So like you said, you just looked around and hoped that you had one of your boys going in with you on that line because unfortunately it's the same thing in the fire department. You know, not everybody is meant to be. And you're right, Rich, we should be able to talk about it, but you don't. I mean, you never want to tell a firefighter, especially one that's been around for years and has seniority, and be like, yo, bro, you shouldn't be going inside fires anymore. Stay outside. It's hard to do.
You know, we had a discussion about this in regards to your coworkers, your teammates, your family in these work environments. And now we've got another layer to it. You got the one aspect where relationships might not mesh and you start to questioning whether or not this person's going to look out for you because you all got some sort of relationship gap. And now you also have to work out or deal with the fact of, are they going to be able and capable when stuff gets thick? AC was saying the locker room communication is not always verbal. If some officers see other officers working out and taking part in work activities, and he's right, sometimes it's not verbal, but we all know how we are subtlety doesn't work with us. You either got to hit us between the eyes or pretty much got to let it be. I see your finger wagging, Rich.
Yeah. Just one quick statement. I think our locker room was at that level due to 70% of the department being prior service, being in the military. So I think that prior military aspect of about 70% of the department built that esprit de corps type of atmosphere, before being a police officer. So you're already on teams that you rely on one another to be at your certain physical, that 100% is needed to support the team. You don't want to be the weak link, and everybody kind of supported that. So I think that kind of transferred to the locker room for police. So that made that atmosphere better. That I feel.
And I see your hand, but I'd like to ask you a question because this goes to the component of camaraderie. Among our crew here, how many folks did you know before going into law enforcement?
What do you mean by that? Well, how many folks?
Well, I'm asking in the context of, it's one thing to go in by yourself and try to make those relationships. It's something else to go in with a partner. Like I would hear Ty speak of, you went in at the same time that CJ went in, right? So some of you all knew one another before you got into law enforcement, and that alone is helpful in your foundation to build relationships because you got each other to lean on.
Well, I actually got in or went on because of Derek, and Derek indirectly, but his father directly, because his father's one got him on, and Derek shared it with me, and that's how I got on. And at least thought about it, because I was in college. So man, I ain't going to college to be some daggone cop. That was my saying. Ain't no way I'm going to college, get a degree, and become a cop. Ain't no way. And and I can tell you the story. I said publicly, I was in there my last year. I went on a full scholarship, but my last year I didn't have that scholarship because I was there for 5 years I was on a 5-year program instead of a 4-year program. But anyway, I ain't have it, and Derek came there my last month. I ain't have my rent. Well, guess who paid my rent right out of their pocket? Derek. I was like, well, shoot, I need to start thinking about this because he always has some money. Here I am over here broke. I'm in college, but I'm broke. He over here with a pocket full of money and paid my rent that month. I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to consider it. And that's how I got involved with it. And I'm glad it happened that way too.
Piece.
I never thought about it.
That's the foundational piece I was talking about.
Yep.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts or comments?
You got Jim saying.
Okay,
Jim
I'm sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
I not only didn't know a soul when I got on Hempstead, I didn't even know where Hempstead was.
That's funny.
Queens. Hempstead, I knew Valley Stream. That's about as far east as I went.
That's very funny.
Do you want to know something funny, Jim? Is that I was raised in Hempstead and I had to use MapQuest to figure out how to find the police station. I had no idea where it was.
Wow.
So you came on after computers existed.
Yes, I did come on after computers existed. Yeah, but I did know 5 people that were on. So at least, Ty lived around the corner from me. Right. My cousin Paul Bell, and because of Paul, it was Troy Wright and Harry Gross.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was the first of my peer group. I had 2 uncles that were police officers, but the main thing the thing that got me interested was when I was away at school, my dad called the payphone in the hallway outside my room, and I happened to answer the phone, and he said, I have some applications for the police test. If you want to take it, I'll pay your way home for the weekend. And it was the I'll pay your way home for the weekend that got me. I was like, if all I have to do is come home for a weekend and sit down and take a test, count me in. So I took the test, scored well, and as I went through the process, then I started opening up to the idea. But initially, I just wanted to come home for the weekend.
He knew how to dangle that carrot for you, didn't he, Derek?
Well, can I?
Yeah.
Can I share mine real quick?
Go ahead.
So my mother forced me and Dwayne Russell, you guys might know him, to take the police test at our junior year of college. I was trying to figure out what I'm going to finish up, what I'm going to do. And she said, take the police test. You never know where you'll be 10 years from now. Take a test, put it in your back pocket, forget about it. So we forgot about it. Come time, the weekend for the test, Saturday morning, me and Dwayne went to a party at Silver Post. Y'all remember the post parties, right? And we went to Post, got home at like 4 or 5 in the morning, slept in my house on the couch, and my mother made us get up and go to that damn test. We took it in Roosevelt. And with my mama, I wouldn't have been a cop. Because Lord knows, if she not woke me up, I would not have gotten up to go to that test party. It got to be at 8 o'clock. And no way in the world I would have made it up there at 8 o'clock.
I'm going to tell you, if you get into this business, everybody's got a story.
Oh, yeah.
And, because it ain't by accident by any stretch. But we're going to keep it pushing unless somebody's got another comment about this topic.
I think Rich had his hand up before Jim said something.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Rev. I was just going to say one thing, and it connects to Ty. I was on Liberty, on leave from the Navy, from Naval Intelligence, and I was in Hempstead. And like I said, outside of Nagasaki, there was a fight. And look who shows up as Ty. I hadn't seen him in ages. And and I was like, wow, Ty's responding to this fight. There's a bunch of people out here in the street in front of Nagasaki. And I said, hey, Ty, how you doing? He goes, hey, man, it's a bad time to say hello, but good to see you. And he went on into the crowd where people were fighting. I thought, wow, he looked sharp in a uniform. He was by himself rolling to a crowd. That made somewhat of an impression. It's not why I became a cop, but that was that was the first guy that I knew as a friend that I saw in uniform, and I said, "Oh wow!" I said, "He looks, people are respectful to him." I said, "That was cool." I said, "It looks kind of dangerous, though."
There's way too many bosses on this call. Let me tell them I rolled to a crowd by myself, man. There's Mark, there's Kieran, there's Derek. Too many bosses on this call, man. You throw me out there.
You survived it. Whatever happened, I left, but it was good to say hi to you. You weren't uncool. You responded to me, at least to acknowledge me and say, hey, man, it's not a good time to say hello because you had to take care of business. And I thought, well, that's cool, And, but I admired that. And I said, wow, look at him, and you did your thing.
So he showed up and you stopped fighting.
Exactly. I just wanted to say that because that was the first impression. Like you said, somebody you knew. And he was in uniform doing his thing, and I thought that was cool.
I think everybody in Hempstead knew Al Burwell, so that was the one I was thinking about at first. Like I knew Al, I knew Big Al. That's what I knew. Big Al would come by the house and park in front of the house and sit on the hood, talk to my parents,
play with the kids.
Yeah.
He used to take my kids and put them in the patrol car with him and drive them around the corner.
Yeah.
My daughter would be sitting in his lap steering the wheel.
Yeah. That was community policing for real.
Right.
All they all wanted to do was hit that siren.
And you did. Every call you came on.
Times have changed. How times have changed.
We used to laugh at you. When you came from the city, we was like, dang, watch Donald. They'd be like, go get the cat out the tree. You say, whoop. You always ran them lights and sirens. But when I tell you, I'm being honest, we laughed at you, Donald. There's a whole bunch of, Mark was probably one of them, but I know I was.
Tell you,
Donald was excited about that light and siren, man. He was like, oh yeah, I got a call.
Lights, siren, what?
We already know speed. There's a need for speed, so that's not anything surprising. D, bring us up with the next one, man.
All right, our next video is going to take us to Westchester County, New York. Two things I wanted to say quickly. I just found out that Ty wouldn't tell me if it was too long for me to be on the job. He didn't mention me in that list, and I'm a little hurt, but that's all right. I got you. I got you. I know it's because of that championship game. I know what it is. I know what it is.
I'll get ready to say, you know exactly why. I'd have called you and pushed you over.
Under the guise of all skin folk and kinfolk.
Oh Lord.
I know we see we think we're all police officers and we always supposed to stand by the blue. It don't necessarily always happen that way. Here's one case where this is a Westchester County detective was caught in a sting. Let's take a look at it and we'll speak about it from there.
A detective with the Mount Vernon Police Department now under arrest, accused of conspiring to share illegal weapons with alleged gang members on Long Island.
News 4's Chris Jose is live in Mount Vernon now with the details for us. Chris?
Adam and Gilma, Mount Vernon Police Detective Kyron Bronskill is one of 18 people named in a 57-count indictment. As you just mentioned, he's accused of conspiring with alleged gang members to sell illegal firearms. This picture right here from the Mount Vernon Police Department was taken when he was named Officer of the Month back in September 2024. Now he's on the other side of the law. His status with the department unclear tonight. We have reached out to the city of Mount Vernon for comment, but we have not heard back yet. The Suffolk County District Attorney's Office released a series of videos today showing members of the Riverhead-based 48 gang robbing multiple businesses. One video from September 23rd, 2024 shows a struggle between a deli clerk and a man armed with a gun. During the violent encounter, the alleged gang member, identified by prosecutors as Demarion Weston, pistol whipped the clerk repeatedly. Prosecutors say Weston and two other gang members stole $6,000 cash. The robberies on video just some of the violent crimes the gang is allegedly responsible for in Suffolk County. Prosecutors say this was a multi-year investigation which connected the 48 gang to 2 murders, 8 armed robberies, 5 additional shootings, and the possession of 13 illegal weapons. The DA revealing more details about the Mount Vernon detective who allegedly shared illegal guns with the gang.
I just want to stress that this conduct is not alleged to have taken place while Bronskill was a Mount Vernon police officer, but rather we allege that in the years prior to him becoming a police officer, Bronskill was actively selling, sharing, and coordinating possession of weapons with high-ranking gang members in Riverhead, New York. It is alleged that this conduct continued up until the same month of his appointment as a police officer in Mount Vernon on December of 2022.
Again, in all, 18 people are named in this 57-count indictment, including Mount Vernon Police Detective Kyron Bronskill. He's due back in court next month.
So, because I saw this report earlier, and when you all were talking about it, I'm like, okay, I remember hearing about the guy who got caught up in stuff that he was doing before he became an officer. This was that guy. And clearly he was in a pretty major investigation. Otherwise, I'd like to think that they would have found that during the background check. But let's go to the hands that are up. D, talk to me.
Just really quick. I know they want to say it's the job speaking, so they want to say it was before he got on the job. But then later on, they were very clear about while he was going through the process and when he first started, that's when these activities were going on. And I know we talk about the background. Now a lot of the background investigators' hands are tied. I understand that. They're at a place where they have to get people on the job, if you will. And some of these things get slipped through the cracks. This should not be one of them. Let me be clear. Here we go with our trope again. You gotta do your job. They stayed mad at me when I said no, that guy can't, because there's some things, but you can't, there's some things, and we used to have the freedom to have that feeling based on your experience. And there was some T's that didn't get crossed and some I's that didn't get dotted, and you were able to say, nah, this person is really not a good fit for this job. Now you really can't do that unless the guy's got a bunch of bodies in his trunk. He's got a shot. I've known people accused of kidnapping and things where they still gave him a shot. had felony records, still gave him a shot, and it just changed, and it seemed like for me it changed overnight. So I don't want to excuse any of this because that's 100% wrong. And most of us know we've worked with people that we were just not sure about. You know, let's be honest. That guy right there, I don't know. Nah, he can't ride with me. If I'm senior, he's sitting at the desk, keeping him inside. We kind of knew that. We didn't have the civil process that we could do anything to get rid of him because he's our peer. But you knew to keep an eye on him. You knew to keep give him a half a post instead of a whole post. That's the true thing. You really got somebody showing up everywhere you are. Just nah, we're not doing that. Yeah, just these things happen, and this is probably why this show exists, because these things have to be called out, and most of us understand if you get called out, you're not going to be liked by a lot of the guys. And those of us in the room, I'm looking around the room, really don't care. And you don't like me, I'm fine with that. As a matter of fact, I prefer that you don't. That's another thing. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I just wanted to be clear on that. This is that's how this could get falling through the cracks.
So you make an interesting point. We know that law enforcement is a different ball of wax compared to a lot of professions. But here's the question from my perspective. What would it take for someone to be able to move beyond a criminal choice that they made if they want to get into law enforcement? Do you see a pathway for someone to be able to move beyond a choice that they had to face? It was a criminal choice, criminal behavior, and they got caught, they got held accountable. And D, I was expecting your hand to go up because I know you've done a lot of this.
I don't think there is one. I think it says a lot about a person's character. There's some things, and everybody's in this room, and we know each other in this room. There's some things Ty just ain't gonna do. There's certain things that Mark ain't gonna do. His brain doesn't work that way. That's why he's effective in his job. And what makes you effective in your job, you can't have those things in your mind. Well, we're not sure. My integrity got to get tested every day. There was never an integrity test. People will film things. Let's look at them. They ain't no integrity test. It's not even a possibility. And I think we have that mindset. Will, I know what you're talking about, that somebody should be able to move past. I don't think anybody can move past certain felonies or other things. I don't think they can move past it because it's the way their mind works. That's the way their mind, when they walk into a room and we see a table full of cash. Most of us in the room know, oh, no, sir, no, sir. No, sir, Derek's in the room. No, sir. Everybody get away from that. You move over there. There's one person, you're responsible for counting it. There's 2 cameras on you and 2 people watching you count it. This is what we do. And there's no way that anything could have possibly happened. So when they do say, there's possible something could happen, you say, come on, bring it on. Waste your time. Waste your time. There's no way. We got checks and balances on our check and checks on our checks and other checks. And then after that, the bank guy came and he had a check and everybody checked. So I hear the mindset of, can't we move past it and can't we redeem some people? I'm gonna say no.
And your point, well taken. I'm gonna move on to the hands that are up. Well, I'm sorry, real quick, if I catch a couple of the comments. We got a couple other folks joining us. Eva says, good afternoon, everyone. Carl Sanders remembers Big Al, K9. And he would talk to the whole neighborhood. Richard Bowden, the gang might have had him to become a police officer to get inside information on police tactics. 20 years ago, gangs were having members join the army with logistics jobs so they could better move product. And he makes a very good point. When it comes to being able to run legit business or criminal business, the more intel you have on your clientele and your opposition, the more efficient you're going to be.
Logistically, I don't think that's what happened in this case because this stuff took place on the way out on the east end of Long Island, out there where my church is, and his job was more on the west,
100 miles away,
outside of New York City. So
yeah,
police work is not even the same, and
And
you
I
don't
see
know
your
the
point.
same, and you don't know the same people.
And I see your point, Don. But the accessibility for information is. So even though he may, and because you got to think about it, what they say, you don't poop in your own backyard. So he's over here doing his dirt. It doesn't make sense to try to join a local department where he's doing his dirt. You go somewhere else, but you still get information that funnels through those channels and access to certain information that could still be beneficial on the other side.
And that's true, but most people that come in on the entry level and they don't have access to that. So I mean, and that's how it is. That's how it is in New York. Like when you come in, listen, I never was a communications operator that had access to those computers. And then when I came in also, which is different now, we ain't have those computers in the car where I could just pull up that information as well. So now I have to go with you on that, because right now you have that computer in your car.
Yeah.
You can pull up whatever you want to pull up. So
Everything's at your fingertips.
I'm backing up off what I'm saying now, because I'm looking at it from when I came on, it wasn't there, but now it is there. You're right.
Absolutely. Okay, I see you. I see you waving the hand, Mark.
Yeah, there is checks and balances though for our audience. Donald's sitting in the car and he runs a plate, and then he runs a plate, and sometimes it'll pick up a pattern, or they'll wonder why he's running plates and stuff like that. And if he gets caught, you can lose your job. So there are checks and balances. It's not like these cops are just riding around willy-nilly, all the power in the world, and nobody's checking on it. DMV will check, and they will call you to task. They'll call up your supervisor. Why is this guy running his plate? It could even be a law enforcement plate. It could be that they notice a pattern of guys running women only.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So they do check. So I just wanted to let our audience know. I know you guys know already, but I just wanted to let the audience know, bring them up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dee brought up a lot of great points. I just wanted to go back to what Jim always says: sensible gun laws. Down here in the South, what he did might not have been criminal, because if you buy the guns legally, you can turn around and sell them to anybody with no paper trail. So I just take it back to that, man. I'm still big with Jim on these gun laws, because anybody wants to make extra money. You buy a couple of guns and then you sell them for double the price to people that shouldn't be getting guns. But guess what? You didn't do nothing illegal, at least down here, because you don't have to get any paperwork from the person you're selling to. You only show your ID at the gun store. That's it. 20 minutes later, you walk out with 3, 4, 5 guns. Then you turn around and sell it to John Smith, and you don't have to prove anything to anybody, and you didn't do anything illegal. But like somebody here said, I think it was D, a person that's in their right mind knows, well, what I'm doing is illegal. I'm selling to somebody I don't know. You shouldn't be doing that, and you are not good for the job, period.
You're right. You're 100% correct. Derek.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things that Dee said, I wrote down a few things, and the last thing I wrote was the equivalent of what Dee said. But I'll start with this. There are people that slip through the cracks. Obviously, there are people that are a little left of center and no one really knows because they hadn't shown signs of it or enough signs of it to be caught. And then we have some of those people that were investigated and they weren't hired, but either they retested or they were reinvestigated and then hired after a second or third try. I know that happens a lot in New York City. If you get eliminated from one test, you're not barred from taking another test. And different investigators have different levels of leniency or tolerance. And some of them give you a little more play than others do, and people slip through that way. And then we have people, which we actually talk about here, that are fired from a department and hired by another department. And in New York City, the way that works usually is if you, for some reason, don't make it out of the academy, the next time around, if you retest, you can go in on a different department. So well, we used to have 3 departments. Now it's 1. But we used to have New York City Housing, New York City Transit, and NYPD. And if you flunked out of the academy under NYPD, you might be able to get back on as transit. And it's the same thing with all of these people. Once they're in the field, you know who they are without them saying it. You can just tell because they operate differently, they think differently, they handle themselves differently than everyone else. Like, you might have to work with someone one day and you'll be like, this motherfucker is making no sense whatsoever. And you can tell who they are. And they're out there, and there's more of them than we think, more of them than the public thinks. Us officers know that there's some nutbags in the departments, but there's a lot more of them than a lot of people in the public think. I saw your hand, Cheech.
Yeah.
Say Cheech, that's the hand.
You bring that up. I'm sorry, real quick. When I was doing gangs, we got sent to a convention out in Vegas. And there was a big thing on how the Bloods and the Crips and a couple of Latino gangs were sending members into the military to get training and then coming out and trying to get onto the police force. So they can slip in, and they're getting smarter where they can try to get in that way and they get that training because, some investigators might be like, oh, well, he was in the military, so that investigation, if they're not doing it right, they might just do it a lot quicker just because of their military background. But hopefully the investigators are doing their job properly.
And it's interesting you say that, Cheech, and I'm sorry to jump ahead of people, but I actually knew 2 people that were on the job that got fired because it was discovered that they had ties to the Latin Kings.
You both make some excellent points, particularly about our profession has long been considered what they call paramilitary. And the transition from military to law enforcement was considered a relatively easy transition, almost a foregone conclusion. As long as you got honorably discharged from the military, it was just a matter of just filling out the information to get in law enforcement. They didn't dig too deep because they associated your military record as making you credible in law enforcement. Obviously, things have changed in this time. What I thought was really interesting about this investigation, what they revealed, this young man reportedly was funneling guns to the gang, but they did not specify if he was obtaining those guns under the color of uniform, because he's only been in law enforcement a couple of years. I see he made detective, but the question for me is, watching this story, I wonder if there's somebody else higher up that insulated him as long as they could and then made him the fall guy. Don, what's your thoughts?
Mine was pretty much that what we're actually discussing would lead us to the next video. It takes us right into the next video, but I see Mark has his hand up. I don't want to just take away from what he has to say about this.
Sure. We can. He's the last hand up, and then we'll go to the next.
Okay.
Bring it, Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Cheech had brought up. Not only did the gangs do that, but a lot of them had their girlfriends get into the Department of Motor Vehicle.
Oh.
And once that was done, they could get a lot of information. They could go through a police department's parking lot. They did their own recon. I'll just leave it at that. So we had to also check on that. So, and, these gangs are smart. They'll get a guy with a clean background. They'll have him join the gang, or he'll want to join the gang, and they'll tell him, all right, your job is to stay clean, and we'll tell you where to go. And one of the big people that do that, besides the Bloods, the Crips, Latin Kings, you can go through all of them, but also the Hells Angels. We had a house in Hempstead, Hells Angels house. They had attorneys. They had all type of people up in there that were joined, and they weren't the type to be out there banging heads and kicking behind, but they had their job and they were utilized. So, don't think that these gangs aren't efficient at what they do, and they're planning on achieving what they want, their goals. That was it.
That was a quiet block, too, wasn't it, Mark?
Say what now?
That was a quiet block in our town, too. Boy.
It wasn't a quiet block when me and Don were working, and we almost got into a fight with some of them because they would put cones in front of their house. And me and Don were talking one day, and we're like, who these guys think they are? And you know what? They're before the grace of God, because we really don't know if something was aiming at our head.
Exactly.
Right.
But we went out there and we snatched up them cones, and we got into a verbal with some of the guys, and they stepped behind the fence and blah blah blah. But they didn't push it. We didn't push it, but we definitely got into it. But they would, for the average civilian, you pull up and you'd hear a voice from the other side of the fence, "Yo, don't park there."
That's right.
And people will be like, "Man, you don't own the street." And they go in. By the time they come back out, all tires are flat.
Oh, yeah, it was ugly.
Cars jacked up.
It was ugly.
And, they had cameras, but they weren't giving the cameras to us. So that person had no idea. He knew who it was, but he couldn't prove it.
Right.
That was it.
All right, D.
Okay.
Can you report, my brother?
Don, you wanted to set up the next one? I know you said you wanted to.
I just know that I looked at it and it was like over 6,000 plus black applicants for the police departments on Long Island, and I believe only 60 something were hired out of over 6,000 applicants. That goes into investigations too, what you were talking about, Derek, earlier. Different investigators, their leniency and what they would tolerate for one but not for another. We knew. Well, let's look at. There's a video, right, D?
Yes, sir. I'll play it.
Let's look at that. Let's look at that, and we'll go from there.
Underneath a sea of blue, a sea of white. White officers make up about 85% of the Nassau and Suffolk police forces. For years, elected officials and police leaders have promised to make changes that would increase diversity.
It's the culture of the department that's the problem.
Hey, Frank, how you doing? How's everything going?
30 years ago, Detective Earl Stroman was assigned to recruit minorities to join the Suffolk police because the department was lacking diversity. His assessment of the situation?
Now, it's the same. I hate to say it.
Newsday has uncovered a reason for that lack of progress. After studying the hiring histories of more than 70,000 applicants, our investigation found evidence of discriminatory hiring practices blocking many African American and Hispanic recruits from joining the Nassau and Suffolk police departments.
It starts, I guess, with recruitment, then the test.
The test is a combination of written, physical, and psychological screenings. And according to the numbers, minority candidates usually don't do well. Since 2012, 6,539 black hopefuls applied to Long Island's major police forces. Only 67 were hired.
There appears to be some form of bias or something operating that skews the numbers to favor white applicants.
From 2015 to 2019, clinicians used by Suffolk County to conduct psychological screenings disqualified black candidates almost 3 times as often as white candidates, and Hispanic applicants nearly twice as often. Newsday's research found every step of the process disqualified minorities, especially black candidates, at higher rates than white applicants.
Failure of your fingers to remain interlocked behind your head will result in that repetition not being counted.
So I just had a lot of students come to me and tell me that they had failed the physical agility screening process, and particularly for Nassau County.
If your knee or torso touch the floor, the test is terminated.
Without a question, most of these candidates were African American male.
Black applicants were disqualified on physical fitness tests nearly twice as often as white candidates.
Can we identify areas that we see are really correlative to a successful officer, whether it's maybe a background in social work or working with in mental health fields or teaching youth or youth counselor?
Local police leaders have been under federal mandate to increase diversity. However, former Suffolk Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart feels federal intervention poses an obstacle.
We have to operate within the constraints of the consent decree, and that's kind of our roadmap. I would say that sometimes it's frustrating. I think that we can do a better job outside of that consent decree.
Nassau Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder agrees there's a problem, and he says he's trying to address it.
We lack in our diversity, we know that, but it's not from a lack of trying. We try heavily to recruit.
When asked about what changes he would make,
I like the process that we do now.
At the request of a group of black officers, Ryder started a program which allows officers of color to help minority candidates prepare for the hiring process. In statements to Newsday, Ryder said those applicants are at a disadvantage.
And look, a lot of these kids come from broken homes. These kids struggle in these communities because they don't have both parents around. They don't have a family history of law enforcement. They're at a disadvantage starting off. And we have to recognize it, and it's true. I can't fix the family home, but I can fix the kid. I can help him get better and work with him to make sure we don't lose that kid and get him into the job. There's some great kids out there that we'd love to have part of this department. I think the process we have is good. I think giving kids a little advantage in some of the minority communities is important too, right? They just don't have it. They don't have mom and dad.
He's basically blaming black people or people of color for not being on the police force, rather than him saying, we have a responsibility, and these are all of the things we've done to remove impediments that may be there.
You don't know anything about me, but because, I'm black, you think you must have come from a broken home. If that's your lens, it's broken. Get a new prescription.
Other civil rights leaders are calling on County Executive Curran to fire Ryder, saying his characterization of minority families is wrong.
I would say to that commissioner, you have served the community well up until this point. Thank you so much. May I have your resignation?
Commissioner Ryder responded in a statement which reads in part, "This interview was done 6 months ago and was about hiring practices and improving diversity in the police department. My intention in my responses was not to be hurtful to anyone, but to show how we are continuing to improve recruitment efforts to increase diversity through community outreach and supporting applicants throughout the process." Ryder goes on to say, "As I have stated in the past, recruitment practices must always continue to expand with a focus placed on increasing the number of minority officers. This department will continue to work towards a more diverse police department." County Executive Curran responded to calls for Ryder's firing in a statement which reads in part, "I do not believe lack of diversity in law enforcement is tied to family makeup. I do know Commissioner Ryder, and I know that he is committed to increasing diversity in the NCPD. His focus on community policing and strengthening relationships with all of our residents was a main reason for my selecting him to lead the department, and he has more than met those expectations."
When you look at the data,
this one is gonna get saucy.
Yes,
Y'all
it
have to
is.
forgive. Y'all have to forgive me. I think the order of the hands goes Cheech first. I'm not sure who's second.
Derek, Jim, and Melba, and then Rich.
Okay, then Rich. So Cheech, Derek, Jim, Melba, Rich. I'm gonna have to keep that playing in my head. But go ahead with it, Cheech.
And Ty, I got you.
Last.
Mhm.
All I'm going to say about this, every test I took, I passed with flying colors. I turned down NYPD, turned down state police because I had gotten a 99.8 on the Suffolk County test, and I figured I'm going to end up on Long Island somewhere. Suffolk County never even said hello to me. Nothing. Never got anything. My understanding was that you needed to get a 100, and that was the only way they call you. But I didn't even get a hello letter. And then all these tests that I passed, Nassau County told me that I failed by 1 point. And there's no way I knew it in my heart, because to me, all the tests were almost the same. And how do I pass all of them with flying colors? And then this one, you're going to tell me that I failed. So, and then the Suffolk County one, after that happened, months later, there's a big thing about how they need more Latino officers.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely, Cheech. Derek?
Yeah. So first and foremost, and I believe I've said this on here before, Patrick Ryder's nickname is Psycho. So for him to say something as stupid as he said about many of your minority applicants come from broken homes, it's not surprising to me. It's surprising that he would say it publicly, but not surprising that that's what's in his mind. If that's what the head of the department believes, how do you think minorities would fare as applicants there? It just makes no sense to me. And speaking from experience, direct experience, the way that NYPD used to eliminate people is by driving history, social media platforms, medical history, their psych tests, both the written and the oral, tattoos. And the way they do this is their investigators are normally detectives. And as the detectives go through the process with them and have them fill out whatever paperwork they fill out, they interview them, particularly when they would get to the part where they view their social media or look at their tattoos. I noticed this personally, many of the minorities were being either put on review or disqualified altogether. And for a couple of different things, if you saw a minority on their social media page like this, throwing up peace signs, the detectives would write that they were displaying gang signs and they would disqualify them. If you had white applicants doing the exact same thing, they had up peace signs. I saw it personally. And as far as like the tattoos, it was the same thing. They would say these are gang tattoos, and they would eliminate people or at least put them on review. And it was predominantly the Hispanics and the Blacks that they were doing it to. Now, when I was in applicant processing, they had to hand me the applications. So I could directly make a change right there on the spot. But when you have people coming in for medicals, you might have 150 people, 200 people a day. So it's a lot of applicants coming in, and you have different supervisors that are overlooking and examining these applications. So some of them feel the same way as the officers or the detectives do. And there are three different ways, on NYPD at least, there are three different ways that the application gets marked. It gets marked with either a green check, which means they're good and they can proceed, or it gets marked with a red R, which places them on review, or a red DQ for disqualification. And if they're placed on disqualification, it's over. It's over. They're just done. If they're placed on review, they could be on review for a year and a half before anything else is done with their application. Before they come back to see an investigator again, they just get no more appointments. They get no more calls until someone decides either they're going to take them off review or they're going to just DQ them altogether. And again, it's predominantly minorities that are getting the short end of the stick like that. You know, people getting eliminated with one speeding ticket. You know what I mean? One speeding ticket, one moving violation, predominantly minorities.
Hear you, man. And I hear you, Derek. I'm gonna jump into a few of these comments real quick. AC says Nassau County investigates to exclude people, not to find officers. Carl Sanders says you can't get hired at some of these police force if you have tattoos that can't be covered up. The test is a moneymaker for the county, AC says. Richard Browden, that's a load of crap. The PT test is ridiculous. I know Delta Force operators who couldn't pass that PT test. A broken home has nothing to do with job qualifications. That local score of the psych test is always prejudiced. Carl Sanders says blacks are the most athletic people. We dominate in all sports, and most of them come from broken homes. AC says not having mom and dad doesn't affect the lack of desire of black men and women to take the test. This reduces the pool of black applicants. Once an applicant passes the test, they then suffer an investigation. Donald Coleman says, my niece, who is now an NYPD police officer, has tattoos on her arms, and I asked her that I thought it would be a problem, but she managed to get on. The point for me with this is they mentioned that the two areas that they saw the disparity as far as the pre-screening were the psych and the PT, correct? They said the PT disparity was more than 50% and the psych was, 66%? And with the police chief making mention of bringing into their suitability, I got to throw this out there because when we talk about resources going into those disadvantaged communities and that they need to go there and that they need these resources because they don't otherwise have the upbringing to help with development and decision-making and whatnot, y'all, we got to be careful. We can't use the same justification for two different issues. If on the one hand, you're saying that their environment is causality for their disadvantage to advocate for resources, but then you can't use those same developmental limits to evaluate their suitability for a job, we got to be careful using the same explanation for two different issues. That being said, the next hand up, I think, was Jim, Melba, Rich, then Ty.
Well, interestingly, one of our viewers and Will hit the two main subjects that I was going to talk about, because I agree 100% with that. It's kind of ridiculous that black candidates fail the physical agility 50% more than whites. Are you kidding me? Obviously, the reporter got it right. Oh, you didn't hold your hands the way you said. It's all pointed. It's all pointed for make someone fail. Let's find what we can do to make somebody fail. And that goes right into the other thing with the psych. Let's take points away from anybody from a broken home. And let's see if we can maneuver it there. And then, of course, what the commissioner said was just outrageous.
Bullshit.
Totally outrageous. But with all of that, there was something that I don't know if anybody missed it, but I didn't. And that's the fact how quickly I guess she was the supervisor. I don't know what she was now, but she didn't want any federal oversight into this issue. That was getting in the way of doing this. I mean, think about that. That federal oversight was going to interrupt the fact that they couldn't hire minorities. When we all know it's federal oversight that demands you find a way to balance the police department. Now, we know under this federal government that'll never happen, but it does show how important federal oversight is in local law enforcement in 1,000 different ways, from hiring to abuse of power and everything in between. So this doesn't surprise me, but it's kind of sad that we're still dealing with it. That's it.
Agree with you, Jim. Now I'm gonna say this because the fitness component that they talked about, Jim, if you'd have been about 30 years ago and you were Jimmy the Greek and said the disparity about athletic performance for black people compared to white applicants, we might be having a whole different conversation. I know a lot of us remember that discussion that he's talked about with black athletes and their being so overwhelmingly talented in that way. All right, y'all. I see 3 hands and we got about 10 minutes left, so let's govern ourselves accordingly. Melba, what's up?
Listen, you know how my take on it, but Patrick Ryder is talking a whole bunch of bullshit. And I'm very tired of this whole trope about broken homes because I'll be quite honest with you, in this day and age, there are just as many white broken homes as there are black broken homes. So we need to stop using that trope, especially when we talk about black people's home families. And that has absolutely nothing to do as to how they're going to test on these standardized tests. It has absolutely nothing to do how they perform on the physical exam. I looked at that and I don't even know how I passed. So I'm like, were we held to that same standard? Because listen, I could barely do a sit-up back then. So I'm wondering, like none of it is making sense. But I will hold this as part. I'll stand on this 10 toes down. Because I saw it even working in Hempstead. There is a disparity when you have officers in communities, especially communities that are comprised of mostly black and brown people. Those youths are more stringently and more ardently policed over their white counterparts. And in Hempstead especially, you could see it on a Friday and Saturday night at the bars, where they would target the black youths that were out there doing the same thing as the white youths. However, who was pulled in by these special enforcement things on a Friday and Saturday night? You would have loads and loads of black and brown people come in, but the white youths that were doing the same thing, they were going in there drinking underage, they were lighting up marijuana, they were doing the same thing. Now get out of here. Get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
We over police our youth. That decreases the ability for our youth to pass a background investigation. When they have decided, hey, this is what I want to do with my life. I'm maybe curious about going into a career in law enforcement. And I'll stand on that 10 toes down. That is my belief. That's it.
Yeah, was that Mia McGee's? Was that there on Fulton?
Oh, there's been 100 names over and over again.
And and they would be crazy. But the thing was, they were college students, and they didn't want to lock up those college students.
No, we can't ruin their lives.
Oh, not at all. These guys, these are educators. I'm done. But when you said it, you just brought to memory what was going on Fulton Avenue. On one side of the street, compared to on the other side of the street, you have Burgundy's, and in Burgundy they get locked up. But Mia McGee's and Butler's Quarters and all of them was doing what they wanted to do.
And the fights were in those white clubs. They had all the fights. McGee's had most of the fights. Anybody.
This whole topic is a trigger about a lot of things that include the recruitment and other things. We're going to get through these last couple of hands. We got Rich and then Ty.
Yeah, real quick. A lot of us have talked about the same things I was going to talk about. But I want to say one thing is that you take these physical agility tests and they're made to trip you up. And if they don't want you, you're going to be disqualified. And what came to mind when I went through the physical agility test, it was a long flight of stairs going up, like 4 flights, maybe 100 steps up and down. You had to go up and down a certain amount of time. And if you missed a step, you failed, you're out. So that's very subjective, because when you're trying to hustle to go real fast, you could miss a step. And if you missed it, you were out. So I know that was a kind of a test where they didn't want you. They could just DQ on that, because chance of missing a step is probably over 50%. I mean, luckily when I went through, I didn't miss one, but I didn't test that theory for myself. But I want to say overall, this current administration on the second go around has been horrible. And, you already have police departments that have good old boy networks. This is really getting rid of the DEI. The fairness is gone. And I just hope that eventually, once this nightmare is over, we get back to fairness, and that's all we need. And people of color, all you need is the playing field to be fair. and then you can truly see what their attributes are, their skill level is, and it's not prejudiced by the skin color. And I hope we get back to that. That's all I got.
Totally agree, Rich. Totally agree. Ty, you had your hand up a second ago.
I'm ready. So really fast, the agility test they gave us in Nassau County Police Department, I ran the cones in a certain time, and the sergeant came back and made me run it again because he didn't believe I ran that time. He was pissed. He was visibly upset that I ran the cones as fast as I did. I had to run it again to prove that time. That's why I said, Phil. But before that even happened, in 1983, I took the test. They hired me in 86 in Hempstead, but they tried to disqualify me in January of 86. Nassau County took me off the list because of a speeding ticket I got when I was 18. 8 years prior to me being investigated. They pulled me off. And Commissioner Velarde and then Inspector Howe called me into the office. I was scared to death of what was going on. They told me what happened. They said, oh, by the way, you can appeal that. As a matter of fact. Wow. And Commissioner Velarde said, if you pass the appeal, Tyrone, I will pull you off. Call me Winston. I'll pull you off the list the next day. Go get the appeal, because I was on the county list waiting to be a county cop. Hempstead told me, if you get the appeal back and get back on the list, we'll pull you off the next day. So Carl Mickle was a detective in CPD. He was my neighbor. He walked in there and spoke for me, and they back on the list. And that's the good news. The bad news is 3 years after being hired, I got approached by an attorney from Washington, D.C., wanting to do a class action suit with 7 police officers in Nassau County that were not hired by Nassau County. Come to find out, when I got in the academy finally, I was in a class I should have been 3 classes ahead. I scored in the mid-80s. Mark and I got almost an identical score. And everybody in my class had like 74. So they said I should have been in that class 2 classes ago. I should have been in Pillar's class, one of those classes. So they did a class action suit, and all 7 of the police officers that Nassau County didn't take were all cops from other departments now. I was a Hempstead cop. Dwayne Russell was state police. A couple guys were in NYPD. So we walked into the courtroom doing the class action suit as complainants. We all had on police uniforms, and Nassau County decided to they didn't go through with the trial anymore because they saw they had no wins. Because if they're going to be NYPD, going to be in Hempstead. Captain Garside spoke up for me, saying this guy can work in Hempstead. He can work anywhere in Nassau County. He said that. And so this what he's saying is bullcrap. They've been doing this now for the last 50 years. He meant every word he said. And for the woman to come back and try to sloss it over, that's just window dressing or trying to turn shit into sugar. That's what that was. That's all I have.
But there were 2 commissioners, one for Nassau and one for Suffolk.
Yeah, but they tried to, they tried to sweeten the dog. But we won that class act. We won that class action suit without even going to trial, because they settled out of court. They knew that they had no wins. The 7 guys you said weren't qualified to be cops are all cops.
and Ty, I believe this also took place that when they were giving that agility test, because Nassau County and Suffolk County took care of their villages as well. They didn't care what went to the villages. So, because why do we have so many minorities with Hempstead, but you don't have that many minorities with Nassau County?
They were trying to get me off.
Test.
They were trying to get me off the. They were trying to get me off the county list.
Or with Lynbrook or Rockville Center, right? There's not a bunch of minorities in Lynbrook and Rockville Center.
They were trying to get me
off
the
Hempstead
county
and
list.
Freeport.
That's right.
Hempstead and Freeport is where they were tunneled to.
They were trying to get me off the county list, bro.
There. What was the racial demographic makeup in Nassau County relative to the percentage of diversity in the department?
Like 3%. What do you mean?
At that time?
Oh my God!
I mean, let's spitball right now. What percentage of blacks live in Nassau County compared to the percentage that are on the force?
More than the percentage of that's on the police department.
Exactly. So
okay, so there's more that live in Nassau County that they're underrepresented as far as percentage wise on the police force. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Let me because you're looking at the whole county. I can't really say that for the whole county. But you look at certain areas of the county.
So I don't know. Does Nassau County Police Department?
Well, Nassau County is one that does the hiring process, not the hiring process, but does the investigation, the background checks for like the Hempstead Police Department. If you understand what I'm saying. So Hempstead comes through Nassau's investigation. All
Okay.
right. So if you looked at the incorporated village of Hempstead, which was basically minority, that's not what the police department was.
Okay. Well, I see Todd's fingers up, and our time has run out.
CJ.
So
I think CJ
and CJ, so we can catch these fingers. As long as y'all don't mind us running over just a tad bit.
20
just get
seconds.
those two.
20 seconds. So just so
You a
know,
lie.
Nassau County is huge, but the police department does not resemble the community it patrols, and the law is supposed to do that. There's enough blacks that the police department does not resemble the matchup. If that answers your question better, Will.
Yeah.
It does not.
There we go.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
You're on mute, CJ.
I'm mute.
You're on mute while you're coming out of Walmart.
Thank you, Donald. I just wanted to add to that. I know you guys should remember George Beckett. He was the only black officer on Garden City.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Nowhere near the ratio. But prior to his passing, he was it. And he had retired before he passed. But at the end of the day, after he retired, there was no more.
Yes, there is. There's one right now.
Is there?
Paul Salvadon.
Who?
I just said it. Yep, Paul Salvadon. I know him.
Oh, great. It's good to know.
Yeah, he transferred from New York City.
Good. Because I think Beckett did too, but that's good. Good news. Good news.
But Beckett should have stayed on the other side anyway because he ain't like us.
But I was gonna say you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell.
No.
Well, I beg to differ. He liked me.
Well,
he must like black women because he sure doesn't like black men.
At all.
Don, do they have any? Wait, do they have any women yet on Garden City?
I don't think so.
Yes,
Do
they do.
Okay.
Just before I retired, they got one because she was there before I retired. Jackson, is my brother-in-law.
Yeah, that's Mark's friend. That's Mark's friend.
At any rate, they used to call me over, and I was about to go over. They was like, "Oh, we got our own girl now." I was like, "Oh, wait a minute!" But yeah, I know they at least have one.
Yeah. He worked with transit too, Derek.
Oh,
the commissioner from Garden City. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Good guy. Real good guy. Go ahead. Go ahead. Will.
I was just going to say it's eerily similar how this issue relates to what we were talking about last week, what that lady did with those Hispanic workers on the rooftop, and how this systemic generational issue continues to circle back around time and time again. I know we run over a tad bit. We're at 7:33.
4:33.
I'm sorry, you're right. I'm looking at something else. Good looking out. I'm thinking about Vegas. Okay. But we got time for a quick feel good video from our man D. Can we work that out, or we need to go ahead on and shut it down?
We got it. Come on.
Okay.
Come on, man. Come on.
1:33 here.
I was going to say,
Now, Malia, let's just go easy on the gas here and come to a complete stop. Okay, you want to try not to go through stop sign. Okay, just remain calm now, and what you're going to want to do is pull up right here next to the curb. This is why we want to stay in the lines and we want to follow rules. Remember this.
License and registration. Holy, Mr. President.
Yeah, just teaching Malia to drive.
You guys ran a stop sign back there, but that's okay. You can go.
Oh, no. Malia's got to learn what it's like to drive in the real world. Now, I want you to go ahead and treat us like you would if I weren't the president. Not exactly what.
That was a good one.
Oh,
Are you sure you mean what you're saying? He ain't asking
exactly.
Well,
You have the reins, my man. I've enjoyed it.
well, listen, thank you so much, Will Quick. Listen, you did a great job, kept us moving. Thank you guys for your participation, and your input today, and especially to those on Facebook Live. Even though AC is a panelist, he interceded a lot. Carl Saunders, thank you so much, Carl. Also, my wife is on there, Donald Coleman, Richard Bowden. Thank you guys so much for your participation on today, and each and every week that you join us. We thank you. Anyone have anything else before we close out? All right, listen. I can't mess with CJ now. I'll go ask CJ to pray, but she's driving. I don't want to crash and praying.
Thank you, thanks. But I'm still going Our Father.
Well, go ahead, CJ.
Well, Our Father, we thank you for yet another day, yet another week that we have communed with each other. God, we thank you for each person that is representative on either side of the panel, in the audience and on the panel, God. We thank you now, God, for keeping us and holding us, oh Father. And as we approach the weekend, God, we're asking that you continue to cover us and bless us. We'll always forever give your name the praise, the glory, and the honor. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for those on Facebook Live.
Where's Reverend Camp?
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. All right, we're off there. Reverend Camp I'm